Okay. Hello, everyone, and a
Hello.
hello, and a very warm welcome. I'm Shikha Kaushik, a psychologist, author, mental health advocate, and a proud part of Thera Biz Solutions, where we work closely with the mental health professionals. At Thera Biz Solutions, partnered by Sajid Mola, our focus is on empowering professionals, helping them grow their practice, voice, and impact in a meaningful way. Today's conversation is especially valuable because we are diving into intersection of branding, content, and conversion. I'm joined by Rhiannon. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing it right. A brand strategist, digital marketing
You did a great
specialist.
job.
Thank you so much for that. So, who helps businesses,
That was
creators grow
perfect.
through authentic conversion driven strategies. So, it's a pleasure to have you with us, first and foremost.
Thank
Now,
you so much. I really, really appreciate the opportunity.
thank you so much for joining, though. So, can you please just introduce yourself? Like, what was your journey as a brand strategist in digital marketing?
Yeah, of course. So hi, my name is Rhiannon Yalowitz. So my background kind of spans from branding strategy to creative direction, content, SEO, web design, and a lot of systems. And a lot of my recent work has been focused on helping businesses either rebuild their brand foundation or to create one from scratch. So I've been helping a lot of people turn ideas into actual, websites, actual logos, actual businesses, which has been really cool. So I got my start, honestly, in my like earliest real world experience. From my father. So my father owns an internet marketing company, and he's been in the industry for about 40 years. So it really, growing up as a kid, he taught me a lot of stuff, and it really gave me a strong, like behind the scenes clarity and understanding of like what is required to do all the moving parts regarding branding, regarding content, regarding web design. I even, kind of watched him do some of the developer end stuff, which is not necessarily my specialty, but it was really cool to like learn how the whole process goes together. And that kind of built my foundation and my interest. Um, but over time, I personally have become especially focused on clarity
Mhm.
because I keep seeing when the strategy and direction underneath like a business are weak, everything else starts to kind of feel disconnected. So I've been really trying to focus a lot on like brand strategy, brand voice, that sort of stuff. And that's been my primary focus and kind of my journey thus far.
It sounds like you come from a legacy background, to be very honest,
A little bit, yeah.
because your
And
father knows about it, and then you are kind of doing the similar
yeah,
work.
I'm actually lucky enough to be working as a consultant for a bunch of his projects right now.
That's
And I am learning and growing within the company. And I do have my own, freelance projects as well. But I'm really learning a lot of new skills. And he's kind of taking a step back and doing more so project management. And he's really allowing me to lead the marketing initiatives, the operations side too, and it's just been really exciting so far.
so basically, soon we are going to know about the legend Rhiannon about it, hopefully, and we're going to probably learn it in some magazine. So thank you so much. Before it all started, that you are giving us a podcast interview for that. Thank you so much for that. So,
Yeah, of course.
so the next question would be, you mentioned working at the intersection of creativity and performance. How do you balance those two in the real world marketing?
Okay, so with that, so for me, creativity, the side creativity, it gets attention, but performance, it gives something direction. I care a lot about visuals and creative direction, but I don't just think something should be pretty just for the sake of being pretty.
Right.
If it looks polished, but it's not building trust, it's not communicating the value of the product or the business or the service or leading anywhere with like a call to action, then pretty is just, it's not enough. So I always try to start with the goal first. Really, that goal regarding kind of breaks down into customer pain points, who your target audience is, that sort of stuff. And from there, I build the creativity aspect around that um, in a way that really still feels human and aligned with the business's values.
That
So
is
that's how I
actually
kind of separate the two, but combine them.
that's actually a very powerful distinction because content that looks good is not always that will perform. So you're focusing on the performance
Exactly.
is something that's kudos to you. Point on that. So
Thank you.
what makes content truly conversion driven rather than engaging?
Okay, so for this one, I'd say to me personally, engaging content, yes, it gets attention, but conversion-driven content actually moves people. It actually gets the
Hmm.
clicks, it actually gets the messages. A lot of content performs simply on the surface, and that doesn't always mean it's creating trust or leading anywhere meaningful whatsoever. It's just, maybe it's getting engagements and connection, but is it really getting sales? Is it really bringing people to your call to action button? Maybe you're getting likes and shares. That's cool, but um, the conversion driven content, it really needs to speak to that right audience clearly. As I said before, you really got to define your target audience. And when it speaks to the right audience, it connects to what they actually care about, what their pain points are. It really makes that next step feel natural, and
Hmm.
the next step being a call to action button.
Exactly. And I think the professionals are mostly, you know, focused on the visibility rather than what happens and what's
Mhm.
capturing them. So you have pointed out very well because sometimes we have so many followers, so many views, but it's of no use, basically.
Exactly. You could have a small following, but it could be a really loyal following, or you could have a large following, and none of
Exactly.
them are actually buying your services or products. So you really want to balance both.
So, from your experience, what are the biggest mistakes professionals make when trying to grow through the content and social media?
Okay, with that one, I'd say one of the biggest mistakes that I personally see a lot is inconsistency. So
Oh.
with that, inconsistent branding, unclear messaging. So essentially, you're not really understanding what it is that they're like the idea they're trying to get across.
Hmm.
And honestly, content that doesn't really connect to a clear audience, again, that target audience, or to a goal. A lot of businesses are posting because they need to be posting because they want to stay visible, but have not really stopped to ask who they're trying to attract. Like, who is your ideal customer? And what that audience what that audience needs to hear, where they want that content to lead to. So again, that call to action. And if there's no strategy or call to action underneath it, the content ends up feeling active, but it's really not effective.
So basically, they are not able to communicate properly what exactly they want. They're just posting things and things and things, sometimes without
They're
any
posting
proper
things
calendar.
exactly. Yes, and
That's
maybe they're not necessarily showcasing, like, maybe they're using terminology that,
hmm.
for example, that is um, makes sense within their industry, but doesn't make sense to the consumer, or they're being really vague with exactly what, I feel
Mm,
like good content needs to have a hook. It needs to
yeah.
have a, understand, like it needs to speak to the target audience.
Hmm.
It needs to define the product or service value, why you should pick us compared to all the other brands, and it needs to end with a call to action. And a lot
Exactly.
of people are just posting content to post
Post.
content.
That's actually doing a lot,
Simple as
especially the
that.
professionals, because they think that if they have the visibility, they have actually just cracked the code, but that's not how it works.
Exactly.
So,
Yes,
how,
exactly.
you just mentioned the clarity so many times. So, how important is clarity in messaging when it comes to building trust and attracting the right audience?
Okay, I like this one. Clarity is huge. Clarity is everything.
Hmm,
I think clarity builds trust faster than
correct.
cleverness does. Um, you're right. If people have to work too hard to understand what you
Hmm,
do or why it matters, then you're already creating friction. And why would you want to create friction with your customers? Clear messaging, aka clarity, it helps the right audience recognize themselves. Like it hits those pain points that I was speaking upon earlier. And that is a huge part of building trust with your potential customers, with your right target audience. And also helps attract those better fit clients. So clarity, again, clarity is everything. You really want to be clear, distinct. And as I kind of broke it down in the previous question, you want to
hmm.
hit all those things and you want them to be clear.
So basically, clarity is the difference between being noticed and being chosen.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, that sounds good. So many professionals are active online but still don't generate leads. Where do you think the disconnect happens, especially with the high numbers of followers? I mean, I have seen certain mental health professionals who have so much followers, but they're not generating enough leads for that.
Very true. So you're going to hear some repeat words on this one. But I think the biggest disconnect here is usually trust and
Hmm.
clarity. People can be super active online, but if the brand does not feel clear, if it doesn't feel credible, or relevant to the right audience, again, you could have who knows how many followers, but are they really your audience? Like, are they really the people who are going to use your service or buy your product or come into
Hmm.
your store or shop or whatever, your business is? Like, yeah, people could be following you, but are they really going to turn into customers? I don't know. Um, a lot of the time, though, the deeper issue is weak positioning
Hmm.
or not really understanding that target audience well enough. So the content, no matter how much you post of it, it never really fully builds the trust that's needed to turn attention into leads.
So basically, activity without direction rarely leads to any result. So if they want to do something, if they
Yep,
want to
exactly.
generate a leads, they need to be clear about it. So,
Yes, exactly. And you got to be making sure it all pertains to the same
same
thing. That's why I said you're going to hear a little bit of
clarity.
the same terminology.
Yes.
Clarity, trust,
Got
um,
it.
and
So you have
but
worked with,
yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, you're
So,
fine. You can go.
okay, great. So you have worked with marketing systems and structured workflows. How important are systems in scaling a business?
So systems are extremely important
Mhm.
because they're what make good ideas repeatable. A lot of my work involves building structure early,
Mhm.
whether that's content planning, spreadsheets, naming system, SEO titles, meta descriptions, alt text, or just better back end organization overall.
Mhm.
I like building those things in at the beginning because it creates consistency and saves a lot of chaos later. To me, good systems support creativity and they don't take away from it. You really got to have the systems set in place as the foundation, and then you can build from that.
So basically, without structure, growth becomes difficult to sustain. We require that structure for
Yeah,
that
very true.
clarity and other things. That sounds good. So
Exactly.
how can professionals simplify their marketing while still achieving consistent growth?
Sure. I would simplify the foundation before
Mm-hmm.
simplifying the output. A lot of people are overwhelmed because their message is scattered and the strategy underneath is not clear. So I would start with, again, clarity first. Who you are trying to reach, what
Mm-hmm.
do they need, and what do you want to be known for? And then what do you want them to do next? The call to action. After that, I think different platforms can absolutely serve different purposes, but the content should be adapted intentionally instead of just copied everywhere. I see a lot of people just copy and pasting the same exact post with the same. You can use similar visuals, but when it comes to the actual words, the actual copy, you need to change that up for Instagram versus TikTok versus Facebook versus LinkedIn versus Twitter versus Threads,
Mm-hmm.
etc. Like I could go on forever, but
So,
that I feel like um, would be my response to that.
so basically, to personalize that particular copy that you are copying, basically, to personalize that thing, to make it expand or to make it reach more people.
That for sure. Definitely, that would be a thing. And then as well, simplifying the foundation,
Mm-hmm.
as I talked about in the previous
Yes.
question, and before trying to simplify the output. Um, so those two things I think would really help.
So, how important is it to combine strong branding, content strategy, and structured visibility to achieve a real business growth?
I think that all of those things need to work together.
Hmm.
Branding shapes how people perceive you.
Hmm.
Content helps communicate your value and build trust. And visibility makes sure the right people are actually seeing whatever it is that you're selling or whatever your product or service is, and that they're seeing it consistently. If one of those pieces is weak, the whole thing gets weaker. Real
Okay.
growth tends to happen when the brand feels clear, the
Hmm.
content feels aligned,
Hmm.
and the visibility is intentional.
Great. I completely agree on this. And this is exactly where
Awesome.
we focus on Thera Biz Solution, helping mental health professionals and life coaches
That's awesome.
combine branding, content, visibility into a structured system that drives real growth. So, my final
I love
question
that.
So, a final question would be an advice basically from you. What advice would you give to professionals who want to grow their presence but feel overwhelmed by the marketing?
All right. So I would tell them to slow down and stop
Mhm.
trying to do everything at once. Most overwhelm come from too much noise and not enough clarity.
Oh,
Um, I would bring them back to the basics. So who you're trying to reach, what do you want to be known for? Why should people trust you? And what do you want them to do next? So exactly how I explained, that those four pillars essentially. Um, really think about what your answers for your specified business to those four questions. And then once those pieces are stronger,
mm.
marketing will feel so much less overwhelming because it starts to feel intentional instead of scattered. So that's the advice I'd give to them.
That's a strong and grounded approach, to be very honest. So, basically, clarity and consistency truly form the foundation of long term growth. So, thank you so
They
much for
really do.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights today. This conversation highlights something very important. Growth is not just about being visible, it is about being clear, strategic, intentional in how you show up, or in your words, to be clear about it, to have a clarity about it. So, at
Yes,
Thera
that
Biz
was nice.
Solution, we remain committed to helping mental health professionals and life coaches structured with building structured visibility, strong positioning, and sustainable growth in their private practice. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
Of course. Thank you guys so much. I had a great time and thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, great.